If you're new to collecting Pokemon cards, here's everything you need to know to prevent your cards from looking like this. Or this. Because even one little scratch on your card or a bit of whitening can be the difference between a $1,000 card and a $10 card. So I put together the ultimate beginner's guide for protecting your Pokemon cards so you can keep your collection safe. Let's get it. The first thing and the most important thing you need is one of these. This is a penny sleeve. It's a super thin, clear plastic sleeve that protects your cards. And you can get these in a variety of different sizes and styles. These are super important because they protect your cards from dust, from fingerprints, from scratches. They're the first layer of defense, and it's so important that you put one of these on every single card that you want to protect. Even if you're putting that card in a top loader or a binder or anywhere else, penny sleeve first. So the difference between a perfect fit sleeve and a loose sleeve is exactly what it sounds like. It's the size of the sleeve. So let's take this Magneton, for example. First, let's put it in a loose sleeve. Now, spoiler alert, the loose sleeves are my preference. They're easy to get the card in and out. It's very unlikely you're going to damage the card doing this. So I use loose sleeves on pretty much all my cards. But now let's take a look at a perfect fit sleeve. Perfect fit sleeves are designed to fit the card perfectly so they're almost invisible. They are much harder to get the card into, as you can see. And it fits the card perfectly. You can barely even tell there's a sleeve on this, which, I mean, that's cool, right? That's really cool. But the challenge with this is it's so tight that it can damage the sides of the card. It can damage the corners if it's moving around a lot. Also, getting the card in and out of this thing, there's not a lot of room. And I'm kind of regretting putting this on my magnets on here because now I've got to be extremely careful getting this thing out without any edge wear. We did it okay. I know a lot of collectors that do use these perfect fit sleeves. I'm not going to go and tell you that you shouldn't do that, but in my opinion, perfect fit sleeves, they do the job super nicely. Keep the card protected, which is the goal. Why do you want to risk anything? So I'm a loose sleeve advocate. I also do want to mention really quick, there's also player sleeves. These are the sleeves that you'll find in like elite trainer boxes, or you can buy them on Pokemon Center. They've got art on the back. They're meant for playing. I don't use them for the same reason I don't use perfect fit sleeves. They're really snug. And because they've got the art in the back is a little thicker. It sketches me out a little bit. I don't want them to scratch the back of my card, so I don't use those. If you're looking to protect your collection, I highly recommend you use completely clear penny sleeve. And the most important thing you want to look for when you're buying a penny sleeve is that it's acid-free and it's PVC-free. Almost all penny sleeves are made this way because the point is to protect your card, and both of those things damage cards. But just double check when you're buying them. My personal preference penny sleeve brand is right here. They're super affordable. I've never had an issue with them. I bought thousands of them and they've always been great quality. So tip number one, rule of thumb, any card that you care about, put it in a penny sleeve. It's so important. Tip number two, top loaders. I'm sure you've seen these before. Top loaders are going to be your second layer of defense for your cards outside of penny sleeves. They're very similar, but they're much thicker plastic, so they protect your cards from getting bent. I've got to lead with this. The most important thing that I use these for are UV protection. The sun fades ink on cards, so having a top loader on your card that protects it from UV rays is really important. So whenever you're buying a top loader, make sure that you buy one that's UV protected. Now, like everything, there are some downsides to using top loaders. I made a full video on this before, and a lot of people didn't agree with me, but I stand by this. I think this is something new collectors need to at least be aware of. Let's take our Magneton again. We've got it in a regular fit penny sleeve. Now let's put it in a top loader. The same thing I was talking about with the perfect fit penny sleeves applies to these. It's hard to get the card in. Look. I mean, what do I do now, right? And everyone says, yeah, tap it on the desk. That's definitely an option. But if you don't know, and what I used to do is I used to reach in here and push it down with my finger, and that damages the card. Look, this damage is not all 100% from doing that, but you can see the crease right up there. That's from years and years of pushing this thing in and out of top loaders. So I'm not saying top loaders are bad. I definitely think that they're good, but that is something you need to be aware of. And one thing you can do to help with this is actually put a little sticky note tab on the penny sleeve. Now you can slide the card in so much easier, in and out, no problem. You don't need to push in. That's a great option I use for a lot of my cards. So the top loaders that I use religiously are right here. And it's really important to pay attention to these specs. And most importantly, it's the weight, the actual thickness of the top loader here. That's what I prefer. I think that's the perfect thickness to protect your card, but not be obnoxious. So I recommend doing that, but play around. I mean, you can go to any local card shop and you can test different sizes and see what you like. The second piece, I'm going to say it again, UV protected. So important. Tip number two, rule of thumb, penny sleeve, then UV protected top loader. better for any card you're looking to protect. But like me, if you are worried about the fact that there's extra space in here and shaking it around, you know, the card can move, there's a potential to ding the edges from that, especially if you're shipping a card, there's another option, and that's card savers. So card savers are like the middle ground between top loaders and penny sleeves. You can see that they're very flexible. They're obviously much larger than a Pokemon card, but they hold the card a little more snug. These are 100% what everybody should be using if you're shipping a card. And here's why. Like I said, there's a lot of room for this to move, and it does move. You can see just by tapping it, it goes to the edge. It goes to the edge. There's a lot of potential for that card to get damaged from that. See how deep that goes in. So before you put this in a card saver, I use these little tabs here. Grab a tab, stick it on the back of the penny sleeve. That way you've got something to grab. It's in there really far. Put that in there. Now the thing with card savers, you can see that moves a lot less, and the edges are nowhere near as rigid. The card's not going to get damaged from shifting, and the likelihood of it shifting is way, way less in a card saver. And if you're grading a card, PSA actually requires that you send a card in a card saver like this and not a top loader. Tip number 3, rule of thumb, card savers are essential if you're looking to ship and grade cards. So next, let's talk about binders. Obviously, we all know what binders are. It's a way to keep your cards organized, but although binders are meant to protect your cards, a lot of them can actually damage your cards. So when I'm looking to get a binder, there's a couple things that I'm really trying to pay attention to. The first thing is I always get a binder that zips closed. And the reason for this is cards won't fall out. This is my trade binder, by the way. So I'm using this all the time, traveling with it a lot, and I don't want to worry about cards coming in and out. So the other really important thing that I look for in binders is side loading pockets instead of top loading. You're also going to notice all my cards in this binder are also in penny sleeves. That's super important. Put every card in a penny sleeve first. But the real reason I like side loading pockets is because cards are way less likely to fall out of their spots with side loads. You'll notice even with top loading pockets, you'll notice with a top loading binder that those top pockets will start to slip up and they'll be exposed to damage. The last thing you're going to notice is this binder has no rings, and that is critical for Pokemon card binders. The pages are actually stitched down the middle in this binder, and that's because these cards on the inside will start to get dings from the rings, from opening and closing and from pressing against them. So binders are an excellent option for organizing and displaying your cards. You can see I'm a big advocate of them. I have a bunch of Voltex binders. That is definitely my preference. There's a ton of great binder brands, so I'm not saying you have to do Voltex, but I've had an excellent experience with Voltex. Plus, I do have a discount code in the description below for anyone interested in Voltex. So tip number 4, rule of thumb, avoid 3-ring binders. Always use side loading and zip up binders if you're looking to store your cards long-term in a binder. It's going to make a world of difference for that. Tip number 5, grading your cards. So if you don't know what grading is, you take a valuable card, you submit it to a grading company like PSA or Beckett or CGC. There's loads of them. They authenticate it. They give it a grade based on its condition, and then they send it back to you in a sealed slab. Once you've got a card in one of these things, it is nearly impossible to get out of. So why grade your cards? A lot of cards actually do increase in value when they're graded if it gets a high grade. So if your card is in great condition, it might be worth grading. It also verifies the authenticity and condition of the card. Like for example, I've got this guy laying around right here. This card's in really good condition. I might want to grade it just so I know that nothing's going to happen to it and it's going to stay in that condition. Now the negatives, and the reason that I actually have never graded a card before, one, it can be expensive to grade the card. Based on the anticipated value of the card, you have to pay a certain amount, and that price can get really expensive. Obviously, you can't remove the card out of the slab once it's in there, and I like to display my cards in binders and other various ways, and although this does look cool, it's not my preference. So for a beginner, I actually don't recommend you even worry about grading your cards. As long as you're following these other steps to protect them, they're not going to get damaged, and that's the most important thing. You can always grade them down the road if you want to, but once you grade them, they're graded. So my rule of thumb here, grading locks your card forever. So only grade cards that you're absolutely certain you want to grade, and make sure you do some research first to see if it really makes sense financially to invest that money to grade the card. So tip number 6, and we did touch upon this before, but that's storage for your card. And what this means is not necessarily what you're putting your cards in, but where you're storing them, the environmental conditions that you're storing your cards in. There's 3 things that you need to make sure you're protecting your cards from: humidity, heat, and UV rays. Humidity warps your cards. I can give you a great example of what humidity does to cards. You can see right now, this Charizard here, it's warping, and that's purely because of humidity. Now, a lot of cards are just going to do that naturally. That is a thing that Pokemon cards do because the ink and the holo, it just kind of pulls the corners in. And that's again why top loaders are so great, because they do keep your cards straight, but you've got to make sure you're keeping your cards in a place that is not super humid, because they will warp. And I made that mistake with this guy right here. Learn from my mistakes. Thankfully, I don't have an example of what UV rays do to a card because that would make the card virtually worthless. But essentially what it does is it fades all the ink and it just makes the card look so dull. It's called sun fading a card, and there actually is a market for these. Funny enough, people collect sun faded cards. Not my thing. I don't want sun faded cards. Keep your cards out of direct sunlight. Make sure they're in UV protected top loaders. And then another layer of defense, you can use UV protected display cases, which I'll get to in the next tip. And the last one I mentioned is heat. Extreme heat, like keeping your cards in an attic, actually expands the glue in the card. I'm gonna try my best to show you what I mean by glue in the card. Yeah, okay, we can kind of see. You see, there's 2 layers of the card glued together. Every single real Pokemon card has these 2 layers. There's a little black line in the middle that I try my best to show you. It's much easier to see with the naked eye. So if you have a card with you, you can look and you will be able to see that black line. There's 2 pieces glued together. When your card is in extreme heat, that glue heats up, melts, and it actually can separate your card. That's a major watch out. Do not keep your cards in the attic. Make sure they're in a comfortable environment. My rule of thumb for this is essentially keep your cards where it's comfortable for a normal human to live. If you're doing that, your cards are going to be okay. I touched upon display cases before, but tip number 7 is using display cases. So if you're like me, the whole point of collecting Pokemon cards is to display them. It's to look at them. I mean, having them in binders like that's really cool, but I'm not seeing them every day. It's not as exciting to me. When I come into my office every day, I want to look at my Pokemon cards. It gives me some excitement. It makes me feel like a kid every morning when I come in and see those. But you've got to make sure you're displaying your cards correctly because there are so many things that can damage your cards just from being out in the elements. Now, number 1, top of the list, my favorite thing to use is right here. They're wall hanging acrylic display cases, UV protected glass. They look really slick. They're not too expensive. I have a bunch of them. They're hung all over the place. Aggie is so mad at me that I have so many, but I don't care because these things are great. The nice thing about these is not only can you display your cards in a clean, slick way with these, they also protect from UV rays, dust, any handling damage because they're behind glass. I look at them every day. I never have to worry about them falling or anything like that. They're secured. You can even lock these. I don't really know why you would lock these in your own home, but you could, I guess, if you wanted to, but they're excellent. I do want to mention one thing though. Don't rely on these solely for UV protection. Every single card that you put in one of these, if it's not graded, make sure it's in a penny sleeve and a top loader. If you learn anything from this video, it's to put all your cards in a penny sleeve and a top loader. I am drilling that into your head intentionally. A rule of thumb here, cases are an excellent way to display your cards, but they're a secondary defense. Do not rely on them solely to protect your cards. Make sure you're protecting your cards with top loaders and penny sleeves as well. Listen guys, protecting your cards isn't just about value, it's about preserving your childhood, preserving your memories, making sure these cards last so you can share the memories with your kids. If you're like me, you just want to keep your collection in good shape. And I have plenty of cards that aren't in mint condition, so by no means am I trying to say keep your whole collection in mint condition. Just keep it the way you got it. But not to mention, it is nice that your collection does appreciate in value if it's well kept. So listen guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I thought it was really important for me to break down all of these different items that you probably should be using to preserve your collection. I also wanted to outline my personal experience and my personal preference. But just remember, everything is a personal choice. Just because I'm doing it or I'm using a specific product doesn't mean you have to too. My goal here is to just give you ideas, let you know what's worked well for me. As you're getting your feet wet in Pokemon, I really hope that these tips are useful for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments below some of your favorite cards you have in your collection and what you've been doing to protect them. Thanks so much for watching. Happy collecting, and I'll catch you on the next one.